Jaime's very early on dialed in on Maggie and Hopi. Maggie and Hopi were the constant for the first several years of the series. Over time, Maggie really became the heart and soul of Jaime's stories.
Love and Rockets for me basically is this girl, Maggie. Maggie is usually not a nervous person, but kind of not always sure of herself. So she always has this guarded posture, kind of like she's camera shy, you know. I have to admit, sometimes it's hard to get her to what she's gonna wear. I'll put her in a coat. Maggie's had her look for years, so she's easier to figure out. After her punk days, she's pretty much a dorky dresser. I mean, there's nothing fancy about her, nothing like the latest styles or anything. She's wearing jeans. When it comes to inking it, that's when I get to straighten out the face. It's a lot harder to draw someone that is getting older and getting wrinkles before they're very old. So it's really difficult to make a 50-year-old or a 60-year-old Maggie. Let's see. And her left foot, she's got a brace. Because in the past she's had trouble with this ankle. And I've written stories about it. But I still never have said exactly the reason why, how she got it. Well, she hurt her foot when she was younger and never got it treated. So it flares up every once in a while. And now that she's older, it flares up even more. And she told everyone that she just said, I heard it when I was little, but I want to write a story about it. But I still don't know what the secret is of why she really did it. I bet she won't tell everybody. That's it. It's just life following Maggie to where she was, 20 here? And now she's almost 60, you know.
You can see the progression of how the characters have evolved physically over time. One of the things that makes their comics books so compelling is that these are never static people. These are people who age, they gain weight, they lose weight, they change their hair. It's just great to feel that they evolve like real people.
And I feel like the series, is maturing in real time with me. Like, as I get older, the stories just become that much more resonant because I recognize myself in the younger characters, but also in the way that they've aged, for better and for worse. I love this, just a beautifully composed covers, really underscores just what a brilliant cartoonist Jaime is in the way that he can telegraph age in real time. I think that's like almost like a superpower that Jaime has, because how on earth you draw a character aging in real time and showing the effects of age from issue to issue, from year to year, from decade to decade, and doing it just so organically in a way that you don't even notice. It's like strange magic to me. I love this too, 20-something hanging out in the bar, drinking beer. Here it's 2016 and they're showing each other cat pictures on their phone.
The way in which they represent women has been such an archetypal shift from the ways in which women are typically depicted in comics. And then here, I think this comic also gets at to why these comic books have remained relevant for so long, and I think why they get their female characters so right. After the punk reunion at the club where Maggie and Hopi are reunited with all of their friends, they all go to a diner, and then they start having a conversation about menopause. Who's getting their periods, who isn't getting their periods. It's a quick aside that takes place over a couple of panels, but it feels so real because what kinds of conversations are women this age having? They're talking about their bodies. They're talking about entering menopause. And for me, this is a surprising thing to see in a comic, especially one written by men. Menopause is not something that's talked about very much, and it's this sort of thing that really makes me appreciate Love and Rockets, that they go there.
We grew up with our grandma and our mom raising us. And my mom had sisters around town. And whenever there was a family gathering, it was always the matriarchs, all the women together ran things. Which was good about that there was no machismo about it. It was all laughing and cooking and playing with the kids and, arguing and drinking and, it was everything. It was like the world.
The layered experience of the female experience, all the way from our bodies to our psychology, and over the period of time that they've done it, I mean, I can't think of another comic book that has done this so profoundly, and at the time that they were doing it, because it was truly prescient.
What you get is that kind of deep core sense of friendship and trust between the female characters. And that extends from sexual intimacy to other kinds of closeness. And I think that that's part of the range of emotion that one can expect from this series and why it's so popular, especially with female audiences and with queer audiences.
Love and Rockets represents this really remarkable moment in terms of representation of queer identities in comics. Love and Rockets is one of the first very powerful and profound representation of queer people in American comic books. Jaime and Gilbert do not identify as queer themselves, but they are incredibly good storytellers that have clearly done the research, have clearly spent a lot of time with queer people, getting their stories and getting their authentic narratives and turning these into comics. This is this kiss that really changed the American comics world in a lot of ways, because it was one of the first and most profound examples of two women kissing. And you see this right here in the sort of origin story of their relationship. This is where Hopi is very much identified as a lesbian. Maggie's more sort of bisexual and a little bit more unsure about her own sexuality. But here, Hopi going, that's why I love you so much, you're such a weirdo. And Maggie says, hey, don't grab my, hey, stop, Hopi, what are you? And there's the kiss. And then Hopi says here, are you mad? No, just. And this is such an elegant, beautiful description of the first time for someone to have a queer experience, where clearly, Hopi's done this before. She is very much identified as a lesbian, but this is new for Maggie. And it's just a couple of words, and it's really what's unsaid that really nails this moment. This was the first time that I would say the majority of American comics readers actually got a chance to see this. So incredibly important. It's very, very important to have queer women depicting themselves, but it's also important to be able to have representation that moves beyond these extremely marginalized communities and into the mainstream in some way, as much as Love and Rockets really represented that.
What you get in Love and Rockets is an honest portrayal of the presence of queer people. And sometimes they're not main characters, sometimes they're side characters. And I think it also attests to the diversity of a kind of SoCal milieu where there are a bunch of folks, queer of color but not queer, who get together and go to house parties and experience life together.